Hello, everyone. This is going to be another brief philosophical interlude or discussion where I kind of dive into a philosophical topic and then I elaborate on my notions or my concepts or arguments. So today I'm going to discuss this kind of contentious topic within positive psychology, and that is why might someone feel bad? Um, about themselves emotionally, like in terms of their self-esteem, philosophically speaking, and what are some of the reasons to overcome that. So I think we live in a society. Now, I can only speak personally for myself, but I think society lacks a lot of innovation. Like, for example, um, I might not be a doctor, but I do firmly believe in the existence of cures that haven't really been utilized in society, like hypochlorous acid or Griffith Griff Griffithicin, Griffithicin, yeah, or RBF machinery or CRISPR. I mean, there's just so many various technologies that I think humanity could substantiate, or even carbon nanotube Dyson spheres. So I think there's a lot of technologies out there that um, humanity could utilize for the good of humankind and the good of humankind's flourishing, but they choose to take a palliative approach. Um, not really treating the infections as we see in the news, surges in illnesses or infections, but there's no real clear striving to treat the etiology. It's like you deal with the symptoms. And unfortunately, that's kind of the plight of medicine, is that without the transhumanistic um, endeavors that it should align itself with and um, kind of collaborate with, it kind of chooses to walk solely by itself, and that isn't always healthy for social or inventive development, inventive intelligence. So I think I especially am a believer and an advocate for anything related to like clinically trialing and testing and empirically factually checking the healing properties of like hypochlorous acid, which is a very, very, very anti-pathogenic base, chemical base, similar to hypochlorous, um, similar to bleach and the hypochlorous acid released by by neutrophils during an infection. So I think that certainly it's a question of why humanity chooses to not use these technologies nearly as much. So uh, I think that hypochlorous acid has a profound way of healing, and I think that absolutely it could cure a lot of infections, but the doctors don't want to prescribe it for reasons unhereto unknown to me. So now, anyways, that's a good topic for another video. Now, I think also is that the reason somebody might feel bad about themselves, philosophically speaking, even if they aren't, you know, even if they have gifts or talents or abilities that offer a lot of knowledge, capital, and to society, I think the problem is if a person is out of a certain demographic of perceptivist homogeneity uh, homogeneity that is associated with like an IQ range or a cognitive range in the typical to normal range, then it's going to be far more relatable. So then now, say if you're a gifted woman. Now I'm like an egalitarian feminist men's rights. I mean, I see all the beauty and nuance in all of them, but I do think that particularly gifted women, especially the ones with like learning disabilities or learning differences, are often not really accounted for by not only giftedness discussions on YouTube or Reddit or Quora or whatever, but aren't really accounted for by the collective consciousness. of female respect and female liberty and fortune and beauty and existentiality. I mean, society doesn't really offer that integrated picture yet of like the hyper philosophical gifted woman contributing to a broad metaphysically diverse field as philosophy. So certainly I think that if you're a woman with unusual gifts, then you have to have an extra layer of self-care, self-defense. I would say philosophically, you have to be more selfish or egoistic, because I do think society has kind of a passive aggressive relation to women who do exceptional things, but aren't really, feminine according to their aesthetic criterion for what they define as feminine within this kind of constructivist, contextualist context. So it's just a matter of being extremely true to one's existentiality, regardless of sex, that unfortunately humanity still associates with certain demographics above others. That isn't always true. I mean, it's kind of a phenomenological favoritism, and that in itself is perilous. Some modal realist arguments. So I think that another reason we can help ourselves into feeling better philosophically when we do feel bad about ourselves is by leaning into what makes us feel flourish, or what makes us feel relieved, or what makes us feel loved in the first place, and kind of brainstorming with ourselves, having a Socratic discussion with ourselves about what we need, what we need to calm those thoughts. I mean, whether it's like, I don't know, a gift or or a book or a game or a project. Now, if somebody is flustered and worrying about something, you know, many often turn to the stoic. You can't always control what you think you can, but it's also a matter of kind of realizing the objectivity, or how close to absolute truth one's perception is, and kind of meta empirically attacking that perception from several angles. So I do think it's best to tackle any kind of self-dialectical healing kind of problem with from a multifarious kind of perspective. So I think we have to serve ourselves, we have to be egoistic, we have to be selfish. I mean, we don't have to be like malignant selfish, obviously, but we have to be selfish in a sense that our needs are being cared for and loved for, and we're feeling the beauty and vividness of all the quilt colors of life. And that to me is leaning into a mind sport or a hobby, like, and especially an intellectual hobby, because I think everyone just exercises all day and out, but doesn't lack the intellectual fruit, or cognitive fruit. Then they kind of become a walking body without organs, as the Deleuzian metaphor goes, where they kind of have a gist of themselves, but the subparts of their intellectual kind of ontochronology for time are blurred by kind of the focus on physicalization as a mechanism for releasing stress. So I think that if one wants to feel better about themselves philosophically, it's best to pick the path of kindness for others, donating, feeding, s- inspiring others for one's art or one's poetry or one's experimental music pieces. And I also think art can be very integral to liberating the human psyche and the spirit in a multitude of ways. And and I think now a lot of people bash AI art. They say, well, it's not quote unquote true art, but it really is just a digital symbiosis between kind of a computational system of pre-programmed automata and the human complexity theory, which is kind of chained in some worlds to determinism and in some worlds to non-determinism. And I think one must love and see past the pain or the anxiety and think about ever people, or think about possible world movies. I mean, that's a great one. Counterfactuals that make one's heart stir with joy or sensuality, or possible world therapy can very much, transform the psyche. And I think that there's a whole catalog of possible world movies out there worth discovering. So that shall be invented one day. So I think, ultimately in the end, to feel better about oneself, it's best to just find a beautifully mind-boggling hobby that cultivates one's different cognitive subtest battery scores, and also to practice the tenets of egoism, existential egoism, selfism, by refusing to kind of always remain opposed to one's own desires above others. And I think the third or fourth tip I'd give is to cultivate a philosophically vivid lifestyle of seeking beauty and love and joy, and not just seeking it for one's own mind, but through experiencing with others, as the Leban's world is defined as, and seeking out that possible world, vivid imagination that in some possible world, whatever you want here in this world to make you happy, comes true in that world. So, anyways, take care, folks, and hope you all have a good day. Thank you. Bye. Bye.